Leadership is one of the most misunderstood topics today. So leadership is confused in three ways. Defining leadership of who is in charge, believing the corporate elite is a race of heroes. We call this the leadership positivity bias. And then ignoring the distinction between success and effectiveness. And I'll go into that later. So this is how to define leadership. It's much more than simply being in charge. It concerns building and maintaining a high-performing team. It should be evaluated in terms of the performance of your team. You know, leadership is a resource for teams. It's not a source of privilege for those in charge. Leadership comes down to how the leader is perceived by their team. You want a simple definition of leadership? So leadership is the ability to select, develop, and engage employees. It's all about building cohesive and goal-oriented teams. It's an ability to achieve exceptional results and sustain results. So why do leaders and teams fail? Well, promotion is typically based on past performance, but not on future potential. Performance requirements change dramatically because as you move up the organization, the requirements change. Like, what actually happens? Well, there's actually little preparation. So it's sink or swim, right? And they don't get enough feedback. And you know, when they do get feedback, it's too late. 50% of the executives eventually derail. So typically, they can't build teams. It's an overuse of their strength. And we call this your dark side. So employees really believe collaboration is important, right? But our research shows only 20% of team members work in a high-performing team. 60% of people in authority have difficulty engaging with their team, and it's really difficult to get results through other people, right? You put a group of people together, how are you going to get them to achieve a goal, a common goal? So here's some behaviors that leaders fail on. So business, right? And long-term versus short-term, right? They're very good at doing the short-term details, but what about setting the company up for long-term success? Leadership, not delegating, not bringing the best out of other people. It's just bad working relationships. Self-management, so not self-aware, not versatile, they can't adapt. So your ability to build teams, right? This is the big one. So you see the statistic at the bottom there. So we see this as the biggest barrier in organizations wanting to scale effective teamwork. And it's because the leader really believes that they can build teams. But team members are great judges of talent. So only 20% of the team members agree. You see that kind of shift, the contrast. So effective leadership is important, right? But what about followership? So in the past, you were told, be quiet, do what I say. And you had to do it, right? Now, with the rise of globalization, the rise of education levels, people want more, right? With the ESG you were talking about, people want to go to companies where they are adding a value to the community, right? They get to choose their employers. So, followership is often overlooked, okay? But really, if you have effective followers, that really impacts success of any group, team, organization, right? But the way to view followership is it should be viewed as a role, but not a position. And let's just be clear, some jobs have very clear leadership requirements, right? You're going to lead teams. But virtually all jobs have followership requirements. And actually, virtually everyone is a follower in an organization. So if you look, first-line supervisors report to mid-level managers. You've got mid-level managers to vice presidents. You've got VPs to the CEO, and the CEO reports to the board of directors. So keep in mind, the same people have both followership and leadership roles. So that's important to know. So yeah, you can have all the strong leadership qualities, right? But your inability to collaborate with other people and follow orders is going to delay your success. So research always shows the more engaged people are in an organization, the harder they're going to work, they're going to produce better work. And again, yeah, so the opposite, well, they're not going to produce much good work, are they? So followership plays a crucial role in societal change, organizations, teams. Examples like the solidarity movement demonstrate the impact of really motivated followers. So if you look here, you see the red words there? I got that from a Polish on the flight to here. She said inspiring. I got another one in the starter shop in Berlin. She said solidarity. But you can kind of see here, Lech was very good at being patient with his negotiations, right? He was good at collaborating back in this time. So here's a framework you guys should follow followership. So there's 3 parts. You've got critical thinking, which is all about the follower's ability, okay, to challenge norms, to propose ideas, and to really come up with relevant solutions, okay? Engagement's all about how hard are they going to work, what's the quality of the work they're going to produce, and really with followers, there's 4 followership types, okay? So before that, so as I said, critical thinking is all about, challenging norms. High scores seek improvement, right? Low scores really delay problem solving. So, and then engagement again, lazy, disinterested for less engaged people. So this one here, self-starters, every team needs to have a group of self-starters. And really, these people really want to improve the team. They really want to do a good job at helping the team out, okay? And then you move on to the brown nosers. These people are kind of like yes people. They're very loyal to the leader, but they're not going to raise any objections. They're not going to ask any questions. So really, that's quite ineffective. You've got the slackers. These people are very good at not doing work, right? They're very good at just not doing any work. The criticizers, these are really bad because what they do is they criticize the leader, the organization, they get people to come up with them, a bit of tribalism, and you don't want to criticize her. So this is what it would look like in your team if you mapped it out. So you see 2 people as self-starters, but what's important here is you see this one person's journey. So they started off as a self-starter, and then they slowly moved their way to a criticizer, right? And what happened here is, well, when you ask them, why did it change? And they all said it was because of their boss. So as a leader, you inspire either good followers or not, and you need to map that out yourself. So a question for you guys, let's start thinking about teams, okay? So building high-performing teams is one of the most misunderstood topics right now. So here's a question, if you guys can put your hands up, so when people work together to complete a task, the job called likely, is it A? If it's A, put your hand up. Okay, how about B? B? How about C? Okay, so the answer is actually B and C, right? And this is the biggest issue right now with teams. So let's talk about leadership success and leadership effectiveness. So charisma and humility, what's the difference? Well, charisma is all about stage presence, okay? It's all about standing out. Humility is not necessarily about standing out, it's about no ignorance, focusing on the team. Okay, so the big problem we see with charismatic people, charismatic narcissists in leadership, is they won't accept responsibility for failure, they take more credit to them, not their teams, and they won't listen to anyone else. And they feel very entitled, okay? And they destroy companies with bad decision making. So you've got to watch out. So leadership success, and again, let's go into it. So success is all about rapid promotions, right? It's about rapid pay rises and very little result. Effectiveness is actually building teams. It's being coachable. It's actually getting exceptional results. So here's a piece of research which is very often ignored. This was in 1987, guys. So this guy, Fred Luthan, studied 457 managers over 4 years across different organizations. And he found 2 groups. He did a very comprehensive job. He used assessments, interviews, ratings, quite a lot of stuff. And he found 2 groups of people. One were very good at networking, right? Number 2, they focused on their team. The ones who networked actually produced very little results. The second group actually produced the most results. But group 1 got promoted fast, not group 2. So again, that's a big issue. And I love this quote by my mentor and business partner. So he says, there are far too many people who are leadership legends in their own minds and charismatically challenge in the eyes of others. So we need to measure charisma, we need to get a hold of it before it's going to destroy companies. So really, the past 40 years, leadership scholars, organizations, influencers took a real big swing and miss when it came to teams. And I did a little bit of research on LinkedIn, and I found about 14 articles with about 36,000 likes. You can see how many followers these influencers and businesses have. And this is what I found. If you just look at the bottom there, that's from the Center for Creative Leadership, okay? They put the 12 characteristics of a good leader. There was no mention of team building, no mention of teams. It's all very individually focused. So if you look at the rest of these articles, it's all about the leader. Again, this is the problem. What about the team, right? So we train leaders how to coach. We train them how to set goals. We train them how to provide feedback. And we train them on followership. We train them on self-awareness, on EQ. But all this is doing is training them to have one-to-one interactions between their employee, okay? Between their direct report. So, today's assessments which measure leadership, they don't do a good job about measuring your ability to build teams. Take a look. I've got some more here. These ones here do not measure team building ability, but it's very common and it's still used. Again, here's some ones that you may know. I'm a big fan of the Hogan and the LBI, but I have to be honest, it does not measure team building ability. And I'll get onto that in a second. So we talked to about 100 consultants, internal, external consultants. We asked them, what assessments do you use for teams? And again, this is the biggest problem, because all of this measures individual differences. It measures the individual, not the team. So when it comes to teams, leaders actually need these 4 things, right? They're going to need a roadmap for team building, for team dynamics. They're going to need benchmarking feedback on how the team stacks up against other teams. And they're going to need to implement team tools, right? So they can guide teams to have the right conversations about team dynamics. And lastly, they need to enforce accountability. So this is the model, this is a roadmap for teams, and really this addresses team dynamics. I call it team level phenomenon. We call it team level phenomenon. And it starts off with context, right? And what is the situation facing the team? Alright, so teams need to get aligned on the situation. The first speaker talked about HR, about to know the customers. A good exercise you can do is, imagine if you had functional leaders, all the heads of department. Get HR to talk about the customer. Don't get sales and marketing to talk about the customer, because they're going to keep talking. You've got to get everyone aligned about the situation. Number 2 is the mission. So teams have to have a purpose, right? They need to have a way to define winning. And then the 3rd is talent. Talent's all about the people on the team, right? Is it too big? Is it too small? Have people got clearly defined roles and responsibilities? Number 4, norms. Effective ways of working. How are meetings are run? How about rules about accountability? Buy-in. Is there enough motivation on the team? Is there loyalty to that team? Resources. This is all about the tangible and intangible resources teams need, right? So teams need budget, they need equipment, but the intangibles is about political support in the organization. They're going to need help from others in the organization. And the 7th point is like psychological safety. It's all about trust. Courage is all about team trust. And the 8th piece is all about, is the team actually getting results? Is the team achieving its goals? So teams are going to need feedback, and this is an example of an executive team on norms, right? So you see the one in red there. It says the team uses effective processes for making decisions. This team was in complete disagreement about this. But what do? You actually get them to do team improvement activities so they can actually have a conversation around that. Self-awareness is not going to help here. They're going to need to sort it out. Teams need to have the right conversations. So, briefly, individuals versus teams. Individuals get all the credit, but leadership is a team sport, right? Are your leaders performance multipliers, or diminishers for the team. And again, are you going to get more results or not? So groups versus teams, this is very important. So leaders need to understand groups versus teams. And essentially, what this is all about is, so groups is all about individual goals, okay? It's more about the individual effort, so it's a bit unique in that sense. So I think of it as a track and field team, because these guys are individuals, but they've come together. Teams is more like football, right? They really have to depend on each other. So as a leader, you need to get clear with your team. When are we more as a team? When are we more as a group? And you need to allocate tasks around this kind of dynamic, okay? Too often we see leaders have one-to-one interactions with their whole team. If you look at groups versus teams, actually, you may need to be talking to the team as opposed to having that one-to-one interaction. So you've got to get this right. You know, groups and teams share the same thing. It's all about exceptional results. It's all about being adaptable and resilient, and it's about improving over time. So TQ, and we hear a lot of IQ, EQ, SQ, but what about your ability to actually build teams? No one talks about that. All the influencers don't talk about it. I think that's a big problem. Leadership's all about the performance of the team, isn't it? So we've got 3 measures of TQ, right? And we've got the leader's TQ. And this is like, to what extent, are you good at building teams or are you not? The team TQ is about the overall health of the team. Organizational TQ is about how you measure team effectiveness across the organization. Again, most organizations don't do this. So why do we promote so many bad leaders? It's because we select people based off interviews, based on charisma. There's no actual insight into, is this person effective? Because as I was talking to you guys about earlier, the success and charisma piece, people are very good at sucking up to their bosses. I have to be honest here. A lot of flattery, okay, a lot of sucking up to their bosses. They get promoted. And then the question is, are you actually effective? Are you just good at getting promoted? We have to find this out. We need insights. So I want to quickly mention Patrick Lencioni. He's done a good job about bringing teams into the conversation. But why start with trust? Why start with trust? There's more to teams than just trust, right? What about team context, as I just talked about? What about size? What about followership? Okay? Hard to really instruct a team to start with trust if they already have some trust. So it's a bit of a critical thinking piece here. So yeah, what are team members in conflict about if goals and rules are not yet established? So if you instruct the team to start with trust, when the goals haven't even been defined, I don't think you're going to get anywhere. So here's the final statistics, folks. So 42% of team members report leaving teams due to bad team experiences. But 99% believe they're good, right? They're good. 86% say effective teamwork is now important now more than ever, right? And right now in organizations, you can be working in a team, you can be working in another team. So you have teams of teams, right? A lot of collaboration. But we still talk about the individual. We're measuring teamwork, we're doing leadership development based off the individual. There's no insight into the team dynamics. So it's a really great opportunity to help teams. And for me to conclude is, really we have to reframe what leadership effectiveness is. Really, it's more than self-awareness. It's more than versatile leadership. You know, it's really about training leaders, and it's also about training leaders on how to build teams. I think that's missed a lot in organizations. So you have this individual approach and this team level approach. Most people confuse the individual by grouping the data from individual approaches and making it a team thing. That's not good. And yeah, so any questions? And before that, I want to thank Marek, Kruk, for having me, and Samash. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.